Good morning, online learners. Here is your lesson about your jump starter for this week. As you'll see behind me, we are looking at a map of the continent of Australia. Before we get to the map of Australia, we need to go over some vocab from our last few weeks and then connect it to this week. So we're going to put the things we've learned in the previous weeks about grids and latitude and longitude together and see how they all work. So if you remember, lines of longitude run from the North Pole to the South Pole. They're measured in coordinates, numbers that go east to west. And although these lines may look parallel, I drew these dotted dashes at the bottom to remind you that the lines of longitude are not parallel. Lines of latitude run horizontally, and they are measured in north to south coordinates. So we have 10 degrees south, 20 degrees south, 30 degrees south, 40 degrees south. These are parallel, and they wrap all the way around the world. So latitude are the horizontal ones, longitude are the vertical ones. Those were from a couple weeks ago. A grid we learned about last week and how we can use grids to find more specific locations. Last week we numbered grids by letters and numbers. This week we're going to use a new term called coordinates to find exact or absolute locations. So we have three new vocab words to learn this week. A relative location is a location of a place using the relative location to another. That might sound weird. Let's give an example. My house is past the big oak tree. So in that case, I've given you one location, my house, as it is in relation to another one, the big oak tree. Or my desk is at the back of the room. So you're learning the location of my desk via its place in the classroom. Or, let's see, Canada is to the north of Minnesota. There you go. Canada, country north of Minnesota. So you're using two different places, putting them together to find a relative location. The opposite of relative location is an absolute location. An absolute location, you're using exact coordinates of latitude and longitude to find the specific one point on a map. Think of it as an address, okay? So you're going to, and that is like where you use coordinates. Coordinates would be like 10 degrees south, 120 degrees north, or sorry, 120 degrees east. That puts you right in this location. There is one spot that is 10 degrees south, 120 degrees east. Or you could say that 20 degrees south, 130 degrees east is boom, right there in the Northern Territory part of Australia. Or if you wanted to get even more specific, you could say 132 degrees east and 14 degrees south would put you at the city of Darwin, Australia. So you can pinpoint exact spots using coordinates, and those use latitude and longitude to give you one point on a map. This is how your GPS finds you and gets you places, because it knows the exact coordinates you are at, and it knows the exact coordinates of where you want to go, and then it maps out exactly using the coordinates of all the other places in between how to get there. So let's go through and look at the map. This week you're looking at Australia, and as you can see that Australia, like the United States, is divided up into different states or territories. And the little dashed blue lines mark off the subdivisions of Australia into different parts. So you have the territory, or the state of Western Australia right here, the Northern Territory part, South Australia, Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania, and the territory around the capital of Canberra. So your questions this week will ask you to find different locations in Australia using their coordinates and their territories. Now, when you are doing this, you'll notice that the big lines are labeled at every 10 degrees. 120 degrees east, 130 degrees east. There may be some questions where they give you a number in between, and you'll have to estimate that. So you can tick them off: 121, 122, 123, 124, 125, 126, 127, 128, 129, 130. And you can estimate in between there. So for example, if I wanted to estimate the coordinates of Perth, Australia, I would need to go to the left of 120 degrees east, so I would need to count down. So I would count here, that would be 119, 118, 117. So I could count that as 117. And then I could need to go below 30 degrees south. When going below means I would need to count towards 40. If you look at these coordinates right here. So I would count this way, and I would count 31, 32. And so I could estimate the coordinates of Perth as being 32 degrees south, 117 degrees east. Whoa. And that would be where how I would estimate the coordinates of Perth. So let me just make that a little bit clearer there. 117 degrees east. And that would be my absolute specific location of Perth. If I wanted to get a relative location of Perth, I could say that Perth is just inland of the ocean, right? Or I could say it is just along the coast, or I could say it is in the southwest corner of Western Australia. And so I could give you kind of a relative location using another place to give you the relative spot where it is. Absolute location would be the coordinates or the address of a place specifically. So hopefully this will help you this week. There are a lot of questions about latitude and longitude. You may need to tell me which states all line up on a certain line. You may need to tell me how you can use the grid to find things. And then later in the week you have to get with exact specific coordinates and even estimate some of your own. Okay, email me if you have any questions. Again, please watch the videos. If you do not watch the videos, you'll have a hard time with these lessons. Have a great week. Talk to you guys in a couple hours.